Hello, I'm Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of these United States. Though when I was the Prez, that didn't include Alaska, where, as you can clearly see, I find myself right now. Anywho, subject-verb agreement is what keeps us superior to the animals. This foul beast on which I ride probably couldn't tell you the difference between William Shakespeare and Justin Bieber. And Horsey McHorselot here definitely couldn't tell you how to match up a subject with its proper verb.
But I could. Did someone say my name?
Yeah, but I was hoping that I would summon Bieber. I suppose you'll do, though.
Thanks, baby, oh.
Anywho, can you tell our young listeners the main idea behind subject-verb agreement?
I'd be delighted. Here goes. Your subject and your verb can't be like the Montagues and the Capulets. They have to agree.
Shameless plug, Bill. Have you no sense of decency?
Not particularly. Any hoodles. Subject-verb agreement is the reason we say I am instead of I is, or they were instead of they was. It makes our language work.
7 years ago, I thought that sounded ridiculously easy.
Well, it's a little more complicated than you might think.
Oh, hold on a minute. Did I hear my good friends Billy Shakes and Abe Link talking about subject-verb agreement? Talk about two fellows working their way off the naughty list and onto the nice one. Subjects and verbs go together like milk, cookies, and the bottom of a chimney. I think the most important aspect of the topic is figuring out what to do with compound sentences. Everyone knows that compound means more than one. So compound subjects are when more than one subject is in the same part of a sentence. When that happens, and the subjects are joined by the word and, the verb is automatically plural. Like if I said, Dancer and Prancer were both stealing presents from the elderly. Dancer and Prancer, not you, Rudolph. Dancer and Prancer are doing that together, so they get the plural verb were. I wouldn't say Dancer and Prancer was both stealing presents. If I join them with the word or, things get a little more complicated. Like when Mrs. Claus catches me playing Xbox when I told her I was helping the elves wrap gifts. Anyhow, if two subjects are joined by the word or, the subject closer to the verb is the one that counts for subject-verb agreement. If I said, Vixen or Cupid is going on a field trip to the glue factory, not you, Rudolph. The subject that agrees with the verb is Cupid, because it's closer to the verb. So, if the sentence was Vixen or the elves are going on a field trip, elves would be the subject that gets the plural verb are. The other way around, the elves or Vixen is going on a field trip, requires the other subject to get the verb. Make sense? Hope that was helpful. Back to you in the studio, Abe and Will. Go away, Rudolph. Go.
To be Santa or not to be Santa? That is the question.
Why would anyone not want to be Santa?
Certainly you noticed how miserable those reindeer are. He probably has to fight with them all the time.
It's like I always tell Mary Todd, not everyone can make their war as civil as it should be.
Any hoodles, I can't help but notice that your taste in costuming is awfully similar to mine own.
I'm just trying to appeal to my more rural constituents.
Keep this up and I'll heave you into that breach over there.
John Wilkes Bee tried that once and look where it got him. Anywho, can we just introduce some new folks who can teach about subject-verb agreement?
But of course. Let me send you through a tempest into a Midsummer Night's world of fairy tales and adventure.
Well,
I suppose that's more realistic than bringing the Easter Bunny in to take over for Santa. Off we go!
The children in this castle think they're going to be learning today. They're probably sitting there right now saying, "We're going to learn all kinds of wonderful rules today about subjects and verbs and objects and flurbs." Philly. Well, they're going to find out that life isn't one big grammar parade. Sometimes your cousin gets water poured on her and has to do a 1-minute monologue about how she's melting. Gerg. Sometimes your sister has to spend all day talking to an idiot mirror who never can quite figure out that he should just lie and tell her that she's the fairest of them all. Blah. The only way these urchins are going to know what's what is if I, Walenda the Witch, step up and show them that life isn't always so agreeable when it comes to subjects and verbs.
Oh, what a beautiful day to enlighten children! I have so many passions, saving princesses, training my noble steed, and obviously I like to lance a lot. I said that I lance a lot? Lance a lot? Any horse. Nothing gives me more pleasure than teaching our youth about proper subject-verb agreement. Noble knight, good sir. Who goes there? 'Tis I, noble one, your fairy godmother. Fair lady, how may I best serve thee? There's trouble afoot, dear knight. A witch lurks in these parts, hoping to keep you from sharing your rules about subject-verb agreement with the children. How dare she? Where goes that evil hag? I shall slay her. No, brave man, you mustn't. Time is of the essence. You're not saying, I'm afraid that, but it's never been done so, and yet you must, dear knight. And so I shall. I shall take on the greatest challenge of all. I shall teach 3 separate rules of subject-verb agreement in a mere matter of moments. Well, at least that was slightly easier than turning him into a pumpkin. First, I shall tell the children about subjects that always require a plural verb. Words like both, few, many, several, and others. Those words always require the writer to use a plural verb. Both, few, many, several, and others? Yes. Both, few, many, several, and others always get plural verbs. So I can't say, both of Cinderella's stepsisters needs a swift kick in the pantaloons? No, madam, because needs is a singular verb. The plural verb is need. It's a silly rule, but subjects that end in S are almost always plural, whereas verbs that end in S are almost always singular. In other words, Cinderella's stepsisters need a swift pantaloon kick. Harumph! He may have explained that rule, but I'd just as soon be caught wearing dirty stockings when a house falls on me as let him explain the next one. Any hocus pocus, I'd better get to casting spells before he explains another. The next rule is the inverse of the former. A number of words always necessitate a singular verb when used as a subject. Oh, my broomsticks! That does sound important. Perhaps I'll listen to just one more rule. Many of them make intuitive sense. Words like each and one obviously are singular. I wouldn't say, each duel are an opportunity to show off my skills. I would say, each duel is an opportunity to show off my skills, with a Z. This makes more sense than magic spells which expire at certain hours of the day. The other subjects that always take singular verbs come in triplet. Anybody, anyone, and anything would be an example. So would no one, nothing, and nobody. And someone, something, and somebody. There's a tricky one of these as well. Even though words like everybody, everyone, and everything sound plural, they are actually singular. That makes sense too. If I said everyone are going to get mad at me for turning their chocolates into toxic waste, that wouldn't make sense. Even though everyone seems to mean multiple people, it's just a singular entity on its own. Exactly, fair maiden. So you would say, everyone is going to get mad at me for turning their chocolates into toxic waste. Thank you, sir.
Huh. I'd never thought of that before. Boy, are those kids in the castle going to run into toil and trouble without that knowledge.
Now, good fairy godmother, I must embark upon the final rule in this trifecta. I sure am glad I've been working out at CrossFit and switched to an all-quinoa diet. Without my stamina, I'd never be able to teach the children about the Sanam words.
What in the heavens are Sanam words, dear knight?
These words, some, any, none, all, and most, Sanam, can be singular or plural, depending on the context.
Oh, noble sir, this is entirely too confusing. The ones that always had singular verbs and the ones that always had plural verbs were hard enough. Now you're going to add ones that can do either? I thought knights were supposed to fight fair.
How dare you besmirch my honor? I'm simply teaching the children what they must learn to pass middle school English, achieve to their highest abilities in high school, get into an accredited 4-year college or university, and go on to a successful life. Is that really so bad?
Do I seriously have to answer that?
How long is this video anyway? It's not that complicated. Take the word some. If a sentence reads, some of my enemies are fans of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, then the subject some is plural. If it reads, some of my armor is made out of quinoa, then the same subject is singular. It all has to do with context. Context? Yes, in grammar, just as in fairy godmothering, context matters. With the Sanam words, you have to look at the rest of the sentence to figure out if you need a plural verb or a singular verb. If I said all of that pie was poisonous, I'm talking about just one pie, so I use a singular verb. But if I said all of those men were diagnosed with scurvy, I'm talking about multiple men, so I use a plural verb.
Don't you get it, fairy godmother? Like, most of the children in that castle are not going to learn this information because most of that knight's flesh is going to be scattered in the moat in a few minutes. Let's dance. Not really dance, so much as battle. It's happening. It's epic. Ow! You hit me in my... Ow!
All the world's a stage. And, egads, Abe, what are you wearing?
You'll have to excuse me, I've had some rough experiences in the theater.
So you're dressing up like a ballerina?
Really, Billy? You're going to question me about cross-dressing?
A rose by any other name would not.
I've had just about enough of this, writer boy. It's time to teach you a lesson. Let me introduce you to my two pals, Emancipation and Proclamation.
I'm a writer, not a fighter.
A curse on both your subjects and your verbs! Okay, roll the clip of the last two rules.
Whoa, did you see that? Those guys sure were fiery. I diagnose them as pretty sick when it comes to subjects and verbs. Anyhows, speaking of subjects and verbs, let's extinguish the last two rules about their agreement. Let me give my second opinion. I concur. Any hospital, we've got one easy rule to teach and one hard rule. Let's stop, drop, and roll through the easy one first. Okay, it is easier to get than a flu shot, and just as important. Some nouns end in S, but are not plural. Seriously? That's it? That's the big news? Actually, news is one of the words. It ends in S, but you wouldn't say the news are bad today. You'd say, I'm sorry, I got your biopsy results, and the news is terrible. Remind me to go to a less passionate doctor. What other words fit the bill?
Quack, quack.
Words like economics, athletics, politics, and my personal favorite, measles. The measles are your favorite? No, the measles is my favorite. That's the point. It's a singular subject. Oh man, if I had my siren, I'd be out of here so fast. Well, not to be hypocritical, but you're no treat to be around either. Any group that would want you as a member isn't one I'd want to be a part of. Speaking of which, group is one of the words that are part of the last rule. Club, company, government, jury, team, army, group, and family. What do those words have in common? You're not going to tell me that they can be either singular or plural depending on something completely random. Actually, that's exactly what I was going to say. Take the word team. Believe it or not, the proper form of the verb is pretty tricky to discern. You would say the team is winning, and that would be right. But you would also say the team are putting on their uniforms, and that would also be right. It sounds funny, but it's true. Somebody get me my axe. Well, there's actually a method to this madness. When you use one of these words, you have to figure out whether it's an individual action or a group action. The team is one entity on the scoreboard, so it's singular when you talk about the score. But the team isn't sharing one uniform. They're putting on multiple uniforms, so it's plural. Make sense? Sort of. So, with a jury, I would say the jury is eating lunch? Not unless they're sharing one sandwich. The individual members of the jury are eating lunch. They aren't acting as a single entity. But since they come to one verdict all together, you'd say the jury is deliberating. That makes about as much sense as a duck walking in here and telling us that we're out of time. Duck!
What are you looking at me for? Ducks don't talk. Quack.
Poultry humor is the foulest form of comedy.
I agree. Which just goes to show that even the bitterest of enemies can find common ground, just as the verbiest of verbs and the subjectiest of subjects can learn to agree.
Oh, Abraham, I'm ever so pleased to hear you say that. Now there's no need for me to get thee to a nunnery.
And there's no need for me to stick you in my cabinet.
Any Horatio, we is just about out of time.
We are just about out of time, Willie. Didn't you learn anything today?
If I say I, can we finish this?
If you say nay, is that horse over there going to make a pun?
Nay!